Who's that darn Karaite Jew? They're making us rabbinists look horrible. Shalom. Welcome to another exciting edition of Torah Watchman Show International, hosted by none other than Hakam Yair ben-Emmett. I have an exciting videos to present to you. It follows the series for the topic of interest line of shorter videos than a typical parsha or the long lectures I used to do. This video was inspired by a Jewish individual. I presume he was Karaite, but he's asked me a lot of interesting questions about the Torah in respect to the Mashiach. Well, before I get started in the details of this, some Jews believe in a literal Mashiach or Mashiach, okay? They believe in a Messiah or a descendant of David, a real historical individual that will be revealed, say, in our generation in the future, that's prophesied by prophets like Zechariah and Ezekiel and Isaiah and many, many others. The word Mashiach, I already did a video like this, is mentioned hundreds of times, mostly in Leviticus and the Tanakh, but it could be almost anyone who was anointed by God, chosen by God, like the 70 judges of Israel that Yitro, the father-in-law of Moshe, advised him to do to try to delegate authority more effectively for all the major court legal decisions and judgments and things of that nature. Okay? Back to the scope of this video is talking about the fundamental principles of Jewish faith. Okay? Now, in rabbinical Judaism is well known. We have 13 of these. If I'm speaking to any Orthodox Jews out there, I used to be Orthodox for many, many years, and I'm not apologizing for that. It was a life journey. It was a process that I think a lot of people have to go through. I started as a Balta Shuva Jew. Okay, it's not germane, but rabbinates per se have their own traditions apart from Karaite Jews in the way how they view halakha and how they view a literal interpretation of Torah versus a subjective form that you find espoused through the Talmud, which is comprised of approximately 2,000 sages and scribal commentaries over a period of time, going back to the time of the Babylonian diaspora, exile. Now, first of all, I'm going to present to you something that most Jews know. If you been to yeshiva, some Jews go to yeshiva, some Jews don't. If they're more observant, they probably do. If they're raised in a Jewish neighborhood, they have more of a benefit of going to that. But anyway, not germane, but an individual by the name of Rabbi Moshe ben Maimon or Maimonides, he's known as the Rambam. He was literally the Einstein of his time, living at toward the latter end of the 11th century, right toward the end of Rashi's life, I believe. I think he died after the first part of the 12th century. Quickly, Rambam started out his academia in Judaism in his teens. He was a teenager, and he actually, he lived in Spain for a long time. He traveled to Egypt and other places, namely because he was running away from Islamofascists of his time. But anyway, he wrote his Mishnah Torah and these 13 fundamental Jewish beliefs that I'll detail in a moment. He wrote this very young in life. He got a lot of documents, and he was a medical doctor per se. He treated illness and things like that. He was very, very intelligent, okay, during that time. He also believed in empirical science and fact-finding and quantitative analysis, something that Rashi was desperately lacking in, okay? But anyway, Rambam compiled a list of something known as the 13 Principles of Jewish Faith that most Jews follow, okay? It's almost like our Constitution, I would say. In fact, when someone goes through a conversion process, they adhere to those 13 principles of Jewish faith, and that defines us as being something other than not Jewish. Okay. Now, I'm going to list these briefly to you. The first one is the belief in the existence of the Creator. That's pretty much common. That's one of the Noahide laws. Who is perfect in every matter of existence and the primary cause of all that exists. So he is the instigator of all existence, all sentient life. Okay, all animals, everything that was created in the past, and everything will be present now, and those things that will sustain and be continuing their existence in the future was initiated by divine creator. The belief in Elohim, on God, Adonai is absolute and unparalleled unity. Some of these are, I don't know if they say are redundant, but they're very direct. They relate to one another somewhat. Karaite, Hakams, and other sages don't spell things out that are just obvious, but bear with me. Number three, the belief in God's non-corporeality. This is a big one among rabbinate, nor that he will be affected by any physical occurrences such as movement or rest or dwelling. So while man changes, while humanity evolves and adapts and changes over time, we change our worldview, we change our theological belief structure, we change the way we raise our family, we change the way we manage our businesses or whatever, and our affairs with life, our interpersonal relationships. We may change, we're very dynamic, but God is not dynamic. He is God. He's always been God, and he will not change. He's not subject to change with the whim of the physical laws of the universe of a whim of a human being. Okay, thank God for that. Verse 4, the belief in God, eternity. Of course, he's non-corporeal. In other words, if he was corporeal, he would have more finite existence. And since he's non-corporeal, like the angels, he continues as this across time. Number 5, the imperative to worship God exclusively and no other foreign god. This is actually very close to the 7 laws of Noah. And then incidentally, Rambam was credited to coming out with that as well. Okay. Number 6, the belief that God communicates with man through prophecy. Of course, that is just common sense for a Jewish believer and reader of the Tanakh. Number 7, the belief in the primacy of the prophecy of Moshe, our teacher. 8, the belief in the divine origin of Torah. Okay, no problems there if you're a Karaite Jew. The belief in the mutability of Torah, and it's not subject to change. We don't need to add to it or subtract to it. It is considered divinely inspired, so it's not made pretty much through the machinations of mankind's foolishness. Okay. Also, number 10, the belief of God's omnipotence and providence. Okay. As a Karaite Jew, I find no problems with these so far, even though they specify things that are pretty much obvious and don't really need it spelled out. This common sense. But anyway, number 11, the belief in divine reward and retribution. Of course, this is all well known in the Torah, and Rambam was not pulling these things out of a magical hat. These things actually came from the Torah. Okay, I don't have all the references here right now, but this is a quick summation of these things. Number 12, the belief of the arrival of the Messiah in the Messianic era. Number 13, the belief in the resurrection of the dead. Number 13, the belief in the resurrection of the dead. Okay. You can read in the prophet of Daniel. You can read in multiple other prophecies about this. The general belief of the patriarchs of blessed memory, they believe. King David talks about, resting with his ancestors and things of this nature. The general belief that there's life after death. This is just common, very common, basic thing in Judaism. It is the custom of any congregation to recite the 13 articles in a slightly more poetic form and singing per se and shul, beginning with the words of Ani Ma'im, I believe every day after the morning prayers in the synagogue. It is good in the dynamic nature of being a human being to proclaim what you believe in, that it's true every day, despite of the ever-changing winds of life. Okay, this is actually part of Orthodox prayer service, and our Sidduros is codified in there. Now we have the Karaite 10 beliefs, okay? They are very close to the 13 beliefs that Rambam had codified, but please notice there are some differences, okay, in specificity. The section, the Karaite 10 beliefs, are very close to the 13 fundamental beliefs codified by Rambam. Something known as Mikdash Ma'at, which is mentioned specifically in number 10. Mikdash Ma'at is actually a very wonderful and beautiful thing. I read about it. It's talking about that of course, the Mishkan, the temple is not here anymore. Okay, we pray for that. That in the time of the Mashiach, the end of days, that one of the tasks of the Mashiach is to build the temple that, according to Ezekiel's blueprints. Okay, the Mikdash is with us, even in the exile. The emphasis upon differences between Karaite Jews and rabbinites in this respect that God is omnipotent. He is his omnipotence is immutable. It's just as much as it was in Israel, is in the diaspora per se. Ezekiel noted that when he encountered God on the river of Kabar in Babylon, right? So the idea of that our God is with us, He's with the remnant of Israel, He's not forgotten His covenant, He's not forgotten His promises. God responds by declaring that He has removed them far from the nations and have scattered them for a reason. Why? So we can grow, become more righteous, and also be a light of understanding of through the Torah to the rest of the nations. That is a beautiful concept for me as a Karaite Jew. Now, the topics I will cover in this section will involve the 10 principles of faith. The sixth principle, we're talking about the proper interpretation of the Torah, versus, a lot of conjecture, a lot of opinionated bias and things of this nature that you find in rabbinical circles. Also, that the Torah does not need any help from us, and that we're forbidden to add or subtract from it. Number one, as we begin here, this is an affirmation for Karaite Jews in our shows. Number one, that the entirety of the physical universe was created and has not forever existed. Okay, so the universe came into existence only because God said it be true. It was not existed because God was not involved in that. Okay, even though physicists are questioning about how the universe came into being today, they're recently disproved the Big Bang theory. Newsflash. Also, they're talking about our universe was came from another universe and through all eternity, and that's quite possible. But this is very important to understand that everything there was ever meant to be, everything that was created in the past, everything that will be made in the future, it will be only through God, okay? His majesty. Number two, that all things have an eternal creator who was not himself created. So God, God did not need to be created. He existed before anything was created, okay? So that is very interesting that, compared to us, we are builders of things. Sometimes we are builders of wicked things. Sometimes we build righteous things like synagogues. We build homes for the poor, that kind of thing. But as far as God, God's nature, that is divine and things of that nature, that that he does not need help from anything. And the Greco-Roman world, they believed in multiple gods, multiple hierarchical gods, that there were gods before Zeus, and they're like the Titans and things. That this is what the Karaite mind was about. That there was God did not have any helper gods. That there was nothing like that. God is an absolute. He's eternal. He's infinite. He exists across space and time, reality as we know it, and he doesn't not need any help from us, other than our obedience and trust and fellowship with him, because he loves us as his children. Okay, so number three, that this creator has no physical form and is single and unified in every sense. Okay, Rambam said the same thing. Number four, that this creator sent Moshe Rabbeinu, peace be upon him. Okay, yes, God sent Moshe Rabbeinu. Rabbeinu essentially means the master teacher. Okay, Rabbi means to teach, teacher of the Torah. Of course, Moshe is affectionately known as Moshe Rabbeinu, both by Karaite Jews and rabbinites as well. He alone enjoyed a wonderful benefit in that he could speak to God face to face without going into a trance or going to sleep and having night visions and things of that nature, like all the other prophets after him. He is very unique. He was chosen by God and had a very intimate relationship with God throughout his entire life. Number five, that he gave his perfect Torah to Moshe and no one else. And that is true, other than maybe 8 verses of Davarim, the fifth book of a scroll, parchment that Moshe codified by his own hand through the inspiration of God. Those last 8 verses were written by Joshua, that his anointed there after Moshe died. But that's what that tenet speaks about. Okay, is that God, that the only individual, the only Navi that was, I wouldn't say worthy, but in God's eyes, he was special and unique enough so he could enjoy an intimate relationship with God. He could speak to him intimately, just like I'm speaking to you right now. And that's why he chose Moshe for the Torah and no one else. And I might say that Moshe did not need any rabbinates in the future. He did not need any Talmuds or any Mishnah, Torah, and anything like that. He didn't need any of that. Okay, he got all the information with God, and God gave him this huge responsibility to write the Torah and write it correctly so that it will exist, from generation to generation. Number six, that every believer should know the language and interpretation of the Torah. This is namely the Hebrew, some of Daniel, and some other books of the Tanakh are written in Aramaic. Well, that is the sister language of Hebrew, used similar character set and things of this nature. So the language interpretation of the Torah, that everyone should know this and should, as an individual, that's the difference between rabbinics and Karaite Jews, that Karaite Jews have an individual calling to understand the Torah and the way that God has revealed to them. And that's what makes it so beautiful. No, you may think this advice a chaos, right? An unstructured kind of understanding the Torah. No. The reason why even though one man, Moshe, was given the Torah, he gave it to every single Jew in his generation and generation to come and our generations for today. Okay? So what it is saying is that the Torah has something to say to every individual person, both laymen and both hakam, rabbis and leaders and people with PhDs and all of this, that everyone has something interesting, unique, and helpful to say about their Torah experience. Number seven, that God sent other prophets other than Moshe. So there were more than one prophet that we can learn from that espoused the Torah. Okay, there were thousands of prophets in the time of Elijah per se, but their messaging, the prophecy, were not recorded in the Torah because they're not generationally important for today. But there were multiple prophets. Prophecy did not end when Moshe died. Okay, so we have something to learn from Isaiah. We have something to learn from Daniel. We have something to learn from Hosea. We have something to learn from Zechariah. And all these other prophets, we should pay attention, all of them, equally as we pay attention to Moshe. because they're essentially espousing what Moshe said in those 5 books. Number 8, that God will resurrect men in the day of judgment. Again, this is a common understanding across all sects and denominations in Judaism, except maybe Reformed Judaism. I don't think they believe in the resurrection of death. Okay, and I don't think they believe in the new temple or temple sacrifices. I don't think they believe in the Messiah either. Number 9, that God gives to every man each according to his own deeds, according to what he earns. That is for the giving of skills and talents and things of this nature. Everyone is held accountable for their own sin. Um, no one, no one, no one can die for your sins per se, as Christians believe. Everyone is judged uniquely, apart from, say, a father and a son relationship. Um, and everyone is given a unique gift. And to understand the Torah in a unique way and come together in a minion per se, and that everyone could be blessed greater than just one person was reading in silo inside of a closet at some hidden place or whatever, all called, and they were never telling anyone what they were learning about. Number 10, that God has not abandoned his people. This is probably one of the most important. That God has not abandoned his people in exile, and sometimes we feel like that. October 7th, 2023, a lot of those families, those hostages, the people that were murdered, both Jew and Gentile, felt that my prayers are not answered, that God abandoned me. Well, no, no. This is just a fulfillment of something that had to happen to generate martyrdom, remorse, teshuva. Most every Jew I know in Israel is on their knees in prayer somewhere, or they're thinking about someone else, because this has impacted so many people, so many people. Many Jews lost their faith after the Holocaust in 1945, but some Jews kept their faith. Okay, this is what it's talking about there. That God has maybe hidden his face. It's in respect to miracles among many witnesses, like in the old tribal Israel and the Mishkan and the Red Sea and the miracles of that nature. But God is still there in the Mikdash of our heart, in the Mishkan of our heart. He's there with us. Rather, Israel's present tribulations are His will, and as we disobey God, as if we are disobedient children, our parents, if they're righteous, they discipline us. They pay attention to our behavior. They put boundaries around behavior. They rewards and rewards and punishments and things of this nature. You encourage good behavior, discourage bad behavior. That's what I'm talking about. It is fitting for Israel to yearn for its salvation at the hand of the Mashiach from the line of David. My friend, if that I was mentioned to you before at the beginning of this video, if you have any other questions, remember the last sentence of the 10th fundamental belief of the Karaite faith. Okay, it says very clearly here, at the hand of the Mashiach from the line of David. When you consider the 13 fundamental beliefs of Rambam as an aggregate, but in comparison with the 10 of Karaite belief structure, they're pretty much the same. They're pretty much the same. And we should get along with each other if we just had these fundamental beliefs side by side here, and we didn't have anything else that we need to argue about. I think we would agree and get along much better. Anyway, I thought this would be informative for you to understand the differences between the Karaite fundamental beliefs and the Rambam's, rabbinical Judaism's 13 fundamental beliefs of being Jewish, what it means to be Jewish, especially in the 21st century. Sometimes they need to be slapped in the face and be reminded of that. Well, Hakam Yara ben-Emmett signing out until the next time. I just pray that all the love and truth and wisdom, all that treasure of the Torah be expounded to you, to be a blessing to you. I pray that my words may be a baruch to you, because I love you all. And I wish you all the blessing of the Lord my God. Shalom Aleichem. Take care. If you've enjoyed this program, please click like and subscribe.